perfect Wagoner.
Yeah. All right. This is Ainsley Wagoner. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will catch you next time.
I have spent my whole short life learning how to be a good wife till I figured out one day I just wasn't made that way. So give me all your good champagne, tell me all your high school pain. We don't have to call it, yeah. We don't have to call it, I'll tell you when I'll be the one. I'll move my own finish line. The cities that you settled for, the restless nights you knew you wanted more. We know we're not finished yet. We know we're not finished yet. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I'll tell you, I'll tell you, I'll be the one. I'll move my own finish line. There is no minor chord. I'm doing what I came for. There is no minor chord. I'm doing what I came for. What I came for isn't finished yet. Isn't finished yet. Oh, I'll tell you, I'll tell you when I'll be the one. I'll move my own finish line. Yeah, I'll move my own finish line.
Ainsley Wagoner there is Silverware. That was wonderful, Ainsley. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meg. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We've got if you tune on Facebook Live, we've just got a few seconds here, and then Democracy Now is coming up. As I said before, WRFL is going to go off the airwaves for a little bit. If you're on the stream, you can keep up that way, and Democracy Now will be there. We are going to stick around with Ainsley and do another song for Facebook Live in just a second, as soon as I push a couple buttons here. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks to Leif Erickson for
Thank you.
being with us too.
Fun times.
And Ainsley, so your songs, songs of self-discovery. I don't know. Is that too corny to say?
No,
Yeah.
sure.
I feel like I've gotten to watch some of your journey in life, and it's interesting to see it continue to unfold.
Yeah.
And it seems like that comes through in music for you,
Yeah.
exploring that.
Yeah, I love, actually, I sort of took a break from music when I moved to San Francisco, not knowing what would come back for me. And I sort of had to do it again because I really missed it. But I was really torn about what name to use, and using Silverware again was an important choice for me because I wanted to connect to that initial lineage of like I want a music project to always represent growth and evolution, and I wanted to keep that name for that reason.
Why? So Silverware represents growth and evolution for you, you said? How so?
I like to connect back to what I was doing when I was first performing as Silverware in 2007, 2008, 10 years ago. And I was using different instrumentation, and I was writing songs that weren't as they were a little bit more abstract, and I was excited about them, and they were songs that I still love. But I felt like this time I really had some things that I wanted to say pretty directly, and so I like, but I like connecting back to what I was doing 10 years ago, because I like for people to be able to see the through line, especially anyone who saw me perform when I was living here.
To see the evolution, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so is songwriting for you, that song, as you said, was the song that you just played, which was called?
Finish Line.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that song has a fairly traditional song structure, maybe more so than some of the things, as you said, you were recording when you were here in Lexington. Yeah,
I mean, I'm really influenced by, I've spent, pretty much my whole life doing and singing and playing church music. I grew up doing that, so that hymn structure is really influenced me. I mean, as well as just listening to the radio, you know, like I love pop music, I love songs that are on the radio, so yeah, I use that structure a lot, and I did that before, but it was just a little less recognizable because it was a kind of odd instrument that I was using. I was using the strum stick, which I still love.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so instead of necessarily like playing different chord changes, I was playing relatively the same chord but different patterns on the same chord with the strum stick. And now I'm like using a guitar, writing kind of like verse chorus structure.
I never know how to do this. I'm just going to come over here.
Okay.
Because we're just on Facebook Live now. Cool. And then, so I'd also like to point out how maybe the influence of, I just want to sort of tip the hat, and you probably do too, to a lot of your buddies, who are, a lot of them are RFL alums, are some of the most erudite. They're gifted musicians, but they're also wildly informed on kind of the history of experimental music. I'm thinking of people like Robert and Trevor and Daryl. I don't know if Daryl would, fit in there, but like these people who, this is a Robert Beatty design right here. Robert is this incredibly gifted artist, but also a wildly provocative experimental musician. And so I've always thought it was interesting to watch you kind of evolve with those guys. These guys who seem to have no fear when it comes to just like pushing the outer limits of making sounds and calling them songs or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they were they were kind of like everything. They were hugely influential to me, and I reflect on it a lot, and I miss them a lot. I miss being here and having that community that, for me, really was built up out of WRFL. They hugely influenced me to, like, big thing is, like, work with what you have. And so I think, like, if you hear them talk at all about, like, the way they came up through music is, like, they were using old bits of technology that they were hearing, that they had around. They were hearing things on the radio that they were influenced by, and they were imitating it. Like, I mean, a lot of us are doing that anyway, but even as we were making music, when we were all in our 20s and 30s, like, we were still sort of using what we had, and everything was cool.
Right.
Like, everything. And it's like, this is something that you hear a lot in Silicon Valley, or now it's more popular in life to say, is like, don't be afraid to fail. And I had definitely come out of, like, I started as a music major here. I took a lot of piano lessons. I was classically trained, and for me, like, the goal was to make no mistakes in music, and that was how I came into music, is like, perform something in the perfect way. That that was what you were striving for. And so meeting them and having this contrast of like, there are no mistakes. Like anything that happens is magical and unique and beautiful, and that's why I think I got into songwriting so seamlessly, because I was just trying things, and people like them, and not to be underestimated is or not to be forgotten, is Sarah O'Keefe.
Yes.
She put together this group of women and was like, let's play music, like let's just jam, and that's how La Lou started. That's like the first band I was in college, and that really propelled me into songwriting. I took those songs and kept going.
La Lou was a magical thing. I was going to say I'd almost forgotten about it, but it had skipped my mind for a moment. But it was like this kind of super group of kind of cool, forward thinking women, and some of whom, if I'm not mistaken, were, and this would fit in with this whole aesthetic, were not really even by their own estimation musicians, I would say.
Right.
But they found a way. They found a thing to play.
Right.
I'm thinking of Carly. Wasn't Carly would play these kind of chimes or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many great people in that band. Carly, Shayna Sanders, Kelly, oh God, I forget Kelly's last name. Eli, Revere Warner, Sarah. That was kind of the lineup that we wound up performing with, but there were others in the beginning who would come over and jam. And yeah, I think to have a group of people that are so encouraging, it felt great at the time, but I think I even more appreciate it in retrospect, because it's really rare and it's really hard to find that.
Right, and that's why I was kind of wondering about that. It's just kind of like a way to sort of put a bow on this, is you moved from here, which there are a lot of people that, I always push back a little bit. I lived in New York for a while, and so I get kind of an out clause, but like whenever people talk about kind of they want to go somewhere where it's cooler or something like that, I'm like, it might be cooler than you think it is, and so as again, this is I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't live in San Francisco. I think it's been very great for you, but it's interesting probably for you to compare the legendary and rich music culture of San Francisco with some of the roots and the ways that you came to music that started here.
Yeah, I mean, there's an interesting thing happening in San Francisco right now, which is I moved there as like a member of a huge demographic. I moved there to work in tech. My day job is at Adobe, and so I was one of this larger movement of basically gentrification, and that's happened many times in San Francisco. People move there for the economy and to make money, but when I started like checking out different music scenes in like an attempt to be a part of one again, the narrative that you hear so often is like that there's not a lot, or that they're like sort of on the down curve, because a lot of people who are artists and musicians have left to Oakland or to Portland or to Los Angeles because it's really difficult to afford to live in San Francisco and be an artist. So I came into it at that moment, but very determined to be like, well, I'm here. There are people here. It took me a little bit. I really, I spent some time sort of searching, going to different events and open mics, and I've been really lucky to fall into an amazing community of musicians there.
So are you saying that you found almost a kind of scarcity? Because I would have guessed the opposite, that people would have clearly marked off their territory and be like, who are you? I've been playing here for 15 years or something like that.
No, not scarcity, but I would say that people were a little bit humbled by the general trend of other artists and musicians moving away.
And, interesting.
And so,
out of San Francisco?
Yeah, a lot of people are moving because it's so darn expensive to live there.
I could do this forever.
That's to say, to your point, I very much missed what I had here, which was a really healthy and thriving community. I think in San Francisco the difference is just scale. There's like other pockets. and it's exciting to like connect with those different ones. But yeah, I missed almost like the really experimental culture here. I think in San Francisco, bands who are more or less of the same genre will stick together. I feel like my community is very similar to the one I had here, which is like you're bonded by being friends, and like one of your friends' band is a noise band and one is a folk band. I've kind of found myself in a similar place there, but yeah, Lexington I feel like it has something really special too.
Have you gotten to fly your freaky friends out there yet for to blow people's minds in San Francisco?
I did. Robert Beatty was out there. Like I think the first year I lived there 4 years ago to play a show, and I took some friends to it, and I like tried to explain what they were gonna experience. He was playing, I think, as Three-Legged Race.
Okay.
Just pretty cool, like experimental electronic, and. Yeah, I don't think I could.
If you're ever looking for a way
them.
to describe it to people who just don't understand, you can tell them that you have a friend whose wife went into labor because of Robert's music.
Whoa.
Just
I don't
Lucy.
know that story. Oh.
It was her. It was the crazy
story.
TV display. Yeah, the crazy TV display at Institute 193, which just had this wall of kind of static sound coming out of it. And that was one of the last things that Lucy and I looked at before we walked home, and she went into labor a couple hours after that.
I was the telephone monster at the theater.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Ainsley Wagoner is here. She is Silverware and is performing tonight, right?
Tonight at Willie's Locally Known.
Yeah.
With Pillow Talk and Trevor Tremaine.
Yeah. And then headed back to San Francisco at some point soon, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to play another song for Facebook Live?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. As sort of a great prop as it is, I'm still going to move this out of the way because it's unnecessary.
Oh.
You didn't know that, did you?
No, well, I was going to ask, but... Yeah.
Now it is. So, this is Ainsley Wagoner, also known as Silverware.
So none of, like... It's just where...
It's just it, yeah,
the
this is it.
microphone is your phone.
Yep, sure
Okay.
is. Okay. We'll say bye. I'll say bye now, and thank you. And this is Silverware.
Keeping the lights on, 'cause I don't wanna wake you, so I'm dressed in the darkness. You're dressed in the darkness. Keys on the table, shoes where you left them. It's too late to be early. It's too late to be early. Ooh.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you, Mick.
Silverware, go see him tonight. Thanks for tuning in. This is the awkward part where I don't know how to end the show, so I just go like this. Bye.
Bye.